Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of I Survived It, where we talk to our guests and they share stories about obstacles that they have overcome in an effort to inspire you all to keep going, to keep pushing. I'm Khadija Phillips, the owner of Besties Media, and we have Miss Crystal Irvin. She is the owner and founder of Skinchella. It's a skincare brand with the awesome fragrance called Chella that everyone loves. And her brand was started out of some obstacles that we're going to get into today. So, welcome to the show, Crystal.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So, let's just jump right into it. Before we talk about the obstacles and the challenges that you face, because we all have some type of challenge that we're facing, especially during these times. Let's just talk a little bit about who you were um, before things started to get crazy in your life. Like just a brief introduction of who you were, the type of person that you were before things started going haywire.
Okay, great. So, as you stated before, my name is Crystal Irvin. I am the owner and founder of Skinchella. I have a wonderful skincare brand, Go Beautiful. I am a woman. I am a mom. I'm an Army veteran. I'm a daughter, a sister, an aunt, and all the great things. I would say that when we talk about things that you survive, like at first I was like, what do you want me to talk about? Like, what? Because for me, and I'm speaking from my own experiences, I believe that I was born to survive. And I say that because I was born as your typical, stereotypical, not given much hope to winning at anything. I was born to teen parents. My mom was 15, my dad was 19, black in the 70s. So all the obstacle was there from birth. And when you're born in that type of environment, with being a young mom, as my mom was, she was emotionally unavailable. So growing up, I became the people pleaser. So we were not only just growing together, I then became the parent because she had her own obstacles, as did my dad. And as we get older in life, we find out these things. But growing up, it just seemed like it was obstacle after obstacle. Being born to young parents, being the caregiver to not only the parents but also the siblings, and I was the older sibling, and there's a whole bunch of obstacles that come with that, where I wasn't able to live my life.
Mm,
I didn't have the luxury of being a child, of experiencing the teenage life. I joined the army. I too got married young, and just based off of people pleasing and wanting someone to choose me and love me. And through now recently through therapy, I realized that all of the obstacles that I faced in life was just from my own choosing, because I did not have the direction. I did not have the caring. I did not have caring adults. I didn't have anyone to stop me. And I also didn't have anyone to teach me the right way of doing things and approaching things. So
well,
no
I know
matter.
you had young parents. Did you have like an aunt or grandmother or somebody that kind of helped you along or that raised you? I know you said that you had to help raise, your parents essentially and your siblings, but there was nobody around you that kind of like said, "Hey, let me like support her or mentor her."
Honestly, I love my grandmother to death. I lived with my grandmother from the time I was 5 until I was 9. But my grandmother was also a foster parent. She also had other grandchildren that were also in the house, and we were close when I lived there. But when I turned 9 and my dad had remarried, and my grandmother, told my dad that, hey, you have children here that you need to raise, and sent me to live with my dad. So as far as in name, yes, I had aunts. But as far as someone stepping forward to say, hey, let me guide you, hey, let me, be that mother figure or even be that adult, no, I did not.
And that's so crazy because you hear a lot of people talking about the village and raising the kids, especially from that era. You hear people talk about it all the time, and that's crazy that nobody actually stepped in, saw what was going on, especially with your parents being young and challenges that I think pretty much all our parents faced in the 70s. Um, pretty much all of them. You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
Right.
why wouldn't you come and rescue the kids?
Looking back, I feel that they were all going through their own struggle. They were all going through something similar. And even though I feel like if I stayed with my grandmother, my life would have been very different. I
Hmm.
would have had the guidance. I would have had someone saying, he's not right for you, or no, you're not doing that. And her doing the really the right thing to do. Like, she called her son, which is my dad, and said, hey, you're starting this life, you got remarried, you're starting a family, this is your daughter, these are your children, you need to take care of them, and sent us to live with our dad. Now, my dad hadn't been home since he was 19, so she didn't know the type of man he turned out to be.
Hmm.
And, as a mom myself, and we all love our babies, right? And they can do no wrong. When you're not, also he spent a lot, and my dad was also in the army. And so he spent his whole military career in Germany. So
Hmm.
we only came to the States to visit our family in Philadelphia once a year. And, just like Judge
So you
Mathis,
went to Germany to live with your father and his new wife. Okay.
yes, yes, I
Okay.
was in Germany.
So I'm sure that was a culture shock, a crazy culture shock.
It was definitely a culture shock. It was definitely a shock period because I didn't know my dad. I did not
Hmm.
know as a child. I did not know that the man who came around, because he came around once a month, I mean, once a year during
Hmm.
during his vacation to the States. I just knew him as the man that came and brought me dolls. I did not know he was my father, even though I was living with my grandma, which is his mom.
Wow.
No one said, hey, I guess they just assumed that I knew he was my dad.
Right.
So when my grandmother sent us to live with him, yeah, it was a shock. I did not know him. He did not know me. I just knew he was my dad. Um, but we were on a military base, so living on a military base is like your own little America. So everybody spoke English. We had grocery stores. Everyone talked to each other. We had school. The American school. It was just over in Europe on a military base. So
Okay.
I'm an army brat.
Are you still, or do you have a close relationship with your parents now?
I don't. Um, and it's very interesting that once I realized that I was tired of being tired of stressed and struggling, and going through hardship after hardship. And I started therapy 2 years ago. I started therapy. But even before then, I would have moments, when I say moments, years of not communicating, because I was always the one visiting. I was always the one calling to check up on them. I was always the one fixing things when they were angry or upset. And I realized that, one, that's not my place. Two, I still wasn't getting supported. And when I would have conversations with them about the things they did to hurt me, the overall from my mom and my dad was, well, no one gives parents a manual on how to raise children. We did our best. I made peace with my demons.
Hmm. How you feel
And
about that? Because I say that too. Like, not to my children, but just thinking like nobody's guiding you on how to do this. You kind of just winging it.
I do understand that as a child. However, now you are an adult. You're 50, you're 60, you're 70. And I'm
Right.
telling you, I'm not saying, oh, I didn't go pointing the fingers like you did this wrong, you did this wrong. I went just to tell them how I felt with the things that they did.
Hmm.
With the verbal abuse. There was verbal abuse, there was mental abuse, there was drug use, there was abandonment,
Mm.
and letting them know how I felt. And there was no apology. There was no, I'm sorry that you felt that way. I was doing the best I could. It wasn't that type of, I'm doing the best I can. It
Hmm.
was exactly how I stated, that no one give parents a manual and I did the best I could. And I made peace with my demons.
Mm.
That was how that's what was said to me. So I felt one again. I did not feel. I felt abandoned again. I
Right.
felt neglected again. I felt rejected again. So I've also realized that if I don't call them, they don't call me. If
Mm-hmm.
I don't reach out to them, they don't reach out to me.
Mm.
So it became very easy to. In the beginning, it was hurtful because I'm like, dang, I'm your daughter. You're not even going
Right.
to call to say hi, how you doing? And I've been through. I've had cancer. Nobody came. And let me back. My mom came. My mom came one day to sweep the living room, but she never came back. Um, when my dad called and said, "Oh, you're strong. You'll make it," and that was the first and last phone call. When my sister, who also struggled with addiction, and she had children. I have the children. I adopted them. They don't call to see how they're doing. Um, I've had numerous struggles, and they did not call to reach out, and it's not like they did not know. They did know, and they didn't call to reach out or anything. So it became really quite apparent, and there was a moment of grieving that I will never have the parents that I needed. I would never have a relationship with my parents that is typical of the parent child relationship. And it became quite easy to not pick up the phone, and also to not feel guilty or hurt about it.
Wow. You just said so much, from the cancer to, taking care of your sister's children. That's a lot. And, like you said, you were born into a situation where you had to start overcoming obstacles at a young age. Would you say that therapy is what helped you, or and actually what made you decide to go to therapy? Because I know a lot of times, our community, we get a bad rap when it comes to therapy, that like we don't go. But I know a lot of Black people that are in therapy, going to therapy. So I commend you for that. What made you decide to go to therapy, and do you think it really gave you peace with, just all the obstacles that you've been overcoming?
What The moment I just said I need therapy. Um, I had, we're women, got to have your mammogram. Check your titties, ladies. You got to check your tatas to get your breast mammogram. My mammogram, and because I had cancer and it was breast cancer, I had to get mammograms every 6 months, every year. When you reach a certain age, you have to get an MRI. So on the MRI, they saw something, and they did another needle core biopsy, and they said did not, they weren't sure, but they think that my cancer had returned. So by that, when they said that, I immediately went into a panic mode. I panicked because going through cancer the first time, I had two small children. Nobody was there. It was stage 3. I hadn't adopted my children yet, and if I died, then they would go into the system. They wouldn't get privy to my military benefits or anything. So that spurred me to legally adopt them so they could get access to my benefits. And it was hard. It was hard, hella hard. And that brought on a whole, I went to full panic anxiety mode because now I have 5 children, and my son is special needs, and he's nonverbal autistic. And if the cancer came back, like, who, I started to get, who is going to come and take care of them? How am I going to get to doctor's appointments? And I remember feeling like I was dying. I couldn't breathe. My heart was beating out my chest. And the first thing I did was call the VA hospital, because that's where I get seen at. And I said, I need to see somebody. I need something right now. And I knew there was, medications for anxiety and PTSD, which I also have from my military service. And when I got there, I guess my eyes was really wild. And I guess I was looking sort of crazy, because they put me in a room. and they put me in a room. It was a white room, and there was two chairs in there, and I was pacing around the room. And then a man came in and he started talking really low, and that angered me so bad. I said, "If you do not speak up, I will kick you through the wall." And he was like, "Okay." So he walked out the room. He came back. He had a little sterner voice. He said he was just trying to calm me down because I felt like they see me pacing around, and if I needed something for anxiety and what was going on. And I told them, so they gave me something for anxiety and scheduled me at that time. They scheduled me to see a psychiatrist, and it went on from there where I was seeing the psychiatrist once a week. And we just started going back from that moment to what was going on in my life now. I was in a not so good relationship, moved to the county, the financial burdens and everything. And we just started peeling, in essence, just peeling back the onion and getting to the core of it. And getting to the core of it was 2 years later. And the core of it was the 5-year-old little girl, me, sitting on my grandmother's porch, waiting for my mom to show up. And she didn't.
Mm,
And from that spurred on, oh, okay, since my mom isn't showing up, I now have to be a mom to my sister, to my grandma, to my mom, to my dad, to my husbands, to my boyfriends, to my friends.
mm,
And it was hard. Therapy is hard because you have to dig deep and you have to be willing to be vulnerable, which I know we don't like to do,
mhm,
especially women, black women. You have to be able to look at yourself and be like, okay, yeah, I did that. I was wild. I was crazy, but why I was wild and crazy was because I was what does she say? Sprinkle, sprinkle. I was a pick
mhm.
me.
But
I
you know
wanted.
what? I think when you go through so many obstacles, like you were born to young parents, drug abuse, mental abuse, cancer, adopting children, special needs, you kind of build up a heart. You have to be kind of hard to function, to live. Like, you can't dwell on all that, or else you won't be able to be there for your children. So I think that's the hard part about therapy, is because you already sitting there with this tight wall built around you. Because if you give in to your feelings, you'll be a mess. You got stuff to do.
And one of the things that my therapist, she was really great at understanding what I went through. Right, I had no choice. I had to take care of me. And the way that I was taking care of me was building up the wall. However, that was also allowing me to continuing to be making bad choices. It was preventing me from using sound mind and judgment because I had built up this wall where, okay, I can't feel nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I went through all of the things, I did not break down in a corner and cry. I did not spread my news on, well, then it was no social media, but nobody knew what was going on because I held it in.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that, and even through therapy, I feel that um, I was also stagnant in growth as a woman, and also emotional growth and also mental growth, where I felt I was in a trauma and toxic environment for 25 years. So I stopped at like 25.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I'm 52 now, I haven't progressed to, oh, you're 52, why don't you act 52, why don't you look 52? Because I stopped at 25. I stopped feeling, I stopped growing. I just buckled down, did what I had to do, on to the next, buckle down, did what I had to do, on to the next, despite all of the things that were happening to me.
I almost did the Kevin Hart. Damn, when you said 52. And I was like, nah, this is a serious moment. I ain't going to.
I do it too. I'm 52. Dang,
Right?
dang.
Well,
So
one thing that I know that is a blessing that came out of it is your skincare brand. as a result of the cancer and not being able to use certain products. So tell us a little bit about how that whole thing came about and a little bit about your brand.
So how that came about was when point blank, when you go through chemotherapy, chemo kills everything.
Hmm.
That is uh, just the truth of it all. Not the cancer. Cancer didn't make your hair fall out. Cancer didn't cause all these things. It was the chemotherapy. And the type of chemotherapy that I had was called the Red Devil. And it was called the Red Devil for a reason, because it was very toxic. And I had to go every week. So it killed every cell.
Mm.
And that's the thing with chemotherapy, um, and cancer. They have to kill everything so then it grows new, right? So, but once I finished chemotherapy and radiation, and my cancer was in remission, and things started to grow back, and I was able to put things on my skin besides Aquaphor. It burned, it hurt, and I couldn't figure out why. Um, but when I looked at the ingredients on the products I was using, it had a lot of chemicals in there that causes harm to your body, that causes cancer, and that causes other types of issues and illnesses. So I started just mixing things in the kitchen. I'm real good in the kitchen. Ask about me. You can Google me. And I wanted something natural where the ingredients were pure and it didn't hurt my skin. It felt good on my skin. And I knew that going through chemotherapy and going to the hospital and sitting in a chemo chair, you see everyone that's in the chemotherapy room and how their skin was looking dry and, just sick, even after chemo stopped. So I partnered with the chemist at Temple, and we started, sampling ingredients that were sustainable, that were made in the USA, that were also good for the skin and also good for the environment. And so Go Beautiful was born. And the great thing about um, Go Beautiful, when I thought of the name Martin, everybody loves Martin, right? And when Gina would do something good and something, and he was, her biggest cheerleader, he was like, "You go, girl." So that's where Go Beautiful come from.
I love that. I love that. And now you have a fragrance that I can't stop talking about because it smells so good. It lasts all day, and I love it. So, I mean, out of all of the obstacles that you've been through, are there any lessons that you can give to the audience? Anybody that's going through some challenges, just something to inspire them?
Yes. I know some are probably going to balk at this, some are probably going to not understand it, but when you're going through your challenges, when you're going through your obstacles, you have to feel them in order to heal them. You have to feel the hurt, you have to feel the pain, you have to feel the disappointment, you have to feel the sadness so you can heal it. Because if you don't, you will wake up at 52 and realize, where has my life gone? Like, what happened? I blinked out. What, I was 25, I blinked and I'm 52, and that's because I did not feel, so I could heal the sadness, so I could heal the abandonment, so I could heal the trauma, and understand that it's just a moment. It's not your life. It's just a moment, and yes, you will get over it. And I'm always the one that when people are going through things, I never say, "Oh, it's all right," because at the moment that you're going through it, it's not all right. It's messed up. It's hard. But what I do say is that whatever you need to do, do it. If you need to cry, if you need to scream, if you need to, take the bottle to the head, if you need to punch a punching bag, if you need to go to the woods and scream, do all of that.
McDonald's fries and a frappe, whatever it is.
McDonald's fries. My sneaky link is McDonald's fries and a caramel sundae. Yes, indeed.
Yep.
Whatever it is. Whatever it is.
I love that. You need to feel to heal. I love that. So I'm so grateful that you decided to join us on the show. I hope that you guys are inspired, got some inspiration. As you can see, Crystal has been through a lot, but she's still standing. She's still growing. She has a thriving business. Um, and she still laughs and smiles. So, go to therapy. Make sure you're feeling whatever you're going through. You can follow Crystal at Go Beautiful with two L's. And her website here is Skinchella.
Yes.
Um, two L's, two A's. To support her skincare brand. It's good for everyone. It's safe. It's healthy. And make sure you harass her to restock her Cella. So we can get these luxury black fragrances out here in these stores.
Can I say one more thing about therapy?
Hmm.
If you go to therapy and you don't vibe with your therapist or you don't feel right, you can choose another one.
Hmm.
Just like if you with your man and he ain't feeling him, you move on to the next one. The shoes don't fit, you get another shoe size, you get another one. And that's all I got to say about that. Just because you go to therapy and it didn't work out once and you feel like you can't go back, because again, there's a therapist out there for you. There is, and you can stop at any time. You can go at any time, and you could do it.
Yeah, black women heal. Black women go to therapy. Make sure you're following Swagger. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube to get notifications when we have more shows. Thank you again for joining us and have a great evening.